Hi friends, it's Terry Gaines. I love creating with card sketches. They are great for creative inspiration. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share details about our Inking of You card sketches, how I determine which card sketch I'm going to use for inspiration by the type of stamp set I'm going to be working with. Plus, I'm going to show you some samples. So for the card sketches, we have a card base. Your card base can be 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4, or it can be 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded at 5.5. So you determine which card base orientation you would like for your card. For the decorative images, your decorative images can be any size or shape. Even though it's represented in an oval or a circle, it can be any shape. You can die cut it, you can cut it out with your paper snaps, or you can even stamp on this layer, for example. The layers have measurements. So for example, this layer is 2 inches by 5 1/4. This one is 2 3/4 by 4. You can add more layers. You can decrease or increase the size of the layer. The layers can be designer series paper, stamped cardstock, texturized cardstock. The options are all up to you. This is your starting point for your creativity. If it shows a bow, that's optional. You can add a bow to your project, you can tie your ribbon into a knot, or you can leave that off. And then you decide which layers you want to add dimensionals to pop up the layers and which ones you want to use your favorite double-sided adhesive. As I mentioned, these are starting points for your creativity. If I'm going to be creating with a stamp set like the Painted Lavender, it's got longer images. For example, these stems, you put the floral images on top, so you have larger images. So I would be looking for card sketches that are in this orientation. If your stamps are smaller and multiples, then you can actually use any. You can use your cards in this fashion or stack them up. Or if your decorative image is large like this in the card sketch, it can be small. It is inspiration, as I mentioned, for a starting point. I'm going to share a card that I created with the Painted Lavender. I actually used Card Sketch 25 for this card. I do have a video tutorial showing how I created these 3 cards. So in the text portion of the video, I'll link you to that video and blog post. And then on my blog post, I'll link you to the video. So here are 3 cards that I created using that card sketch. You can see that I've used designer series paper for my layers, and I also added cardstock behind my layers. And if you look at the card sketch, you can see that there's no layer on the back here, but I added a layer. So as I mentioned, this was a starting point to create these 3 cards. You can see that I've even changed where I have the sentiment. I have the sentiment here for this card sample, and I added a bow. I have the sentiment in that same location, but I used punches. And then for this one, I put the sentiment on a tag and moved it up. So you have so many options for your creativity. Another samples I want to share with you, I created with the Pansy Patch. For this card sample or card, I used Card Sketch 71. When I looked at this card sketch and I saw that we have these different size stamp images with the pansy, that this would be perfect. So for this one, I have my layer with designer series paper. I added more layers for my sentiment layer, and then I have 3 flowers and 3 of the leaves here. So this one I used the stamps to create it, and for this one I used the coordinating dies to create it, and these are so fun. I used adhesive sheets behind the smaller detail part of it, but as I mentioned, it's very similar, but stamps and ink on this one and dies on this one. If you have a lot of scraps in your scrap bin and different width, you can use card sketches that are going to utilize those. For example, Card Sketch 57, it has 6 strips of 6 strips that are 3/4 by 4 inches. Some are a little bit longer in length. You can actually change that up. You can use 1/2 inch strips, you can use 1 inch strips, and you can be creative. There are so many fun card sketches in this booklet that you can create with. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and enjoy card sketch creating. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Take care and happy creating.